Hey guys, welcome back. With Halo Infinite finally returning us to our monkey roots for the first time, at least in a first-person game, since Halo Reach, I thought now was a better time than ever to take a look at their full military history, covering every brute rank that we know of, both in the Covenant and also in the Banished, and also the sets of armor that come with those ranks. Now, I'll be honest, I am very secretly crossing my fingers for playable brutes in Halo Infinite, so I figured that we'd also cover the armor that, should my dream come true, we could be unlocking and wearing in Halo Infinite multiplayer. It's a pipe dream. Trust me, I know it's a pipe dream, but a man can dream, right? Let a man dream. Anyway, let's embrace our inner monkey and swing into the lore. Starting off with the lowest ranking brutes in any Covenant or Banished military, we have the Brute Miners. The Miners are the most common form of brute infantry and have been present during almost every battle or skirmish the brutes have ever been involved in. They're the weakest and also the least experienced members of their packs, and are typically encountered in larger numbers than the other ranks. Throughout the years since humanity's first contact with these low-ranking, yet still vicious creatures, they've been known to sport various different sets of armor. During the Fall of Reach, they wore simple yet ornately detailed fabric armor, covering little of the body, with small pieces of blue armor plating on their biceps and a crude cobalt helmet. Those under the command of Tartarus sported an even simpler design, with small armor plates covering the arms, the neck, and sometimes the head, and a bandolier across the body. However, Tartarus's miners seem to sport far more body hair than any other iteration of the rank ever encountered, a trend among his brutes. Now, it's unknown whether this was simply coincidence, or a specific requirement for all of those who served beneath this once savage chieftain. Following the Great Schism, however, the miners became a significantly more important presence within the Covenant military, considering that the elites, who once made up the bulk of their fighting force, were now their mortal enemies, and as such, they received an armor upgrade. Their simple armor plating was replaced by full-on power armor, making them technically more durable. However, this armor is relatively weak still, able to be broken by even the smallest of small arms fire, and when it breaks, all they're left with is a simple fabric undersuit. And then, following the fall of the Covenant, it actually appears that the miner rank lived on in the Banished, with brutes who hold the rank wearing armor that looks to be something of a hybrid between Halo 3 and Halo Reach's miner armor. Now, we don't know for sure that these brutes are miners. The Banished may have different rank notations within their military, but the armor is very similar. As for their weaponry, miners tend to be equipped with just about everything, really. Typically, they'll be outfitted with small arms like the spikers, plasma rifles, repeaters, and occasionally maulers, but have been seen wielding heavier weaponry as well, such as carbines, concussion rifles, and even fuel rods. Those within the Banished seem to favour the Mangler. And the same can be said for their equipment as well, from deployable covers to flares, and when their pack leader is feeling extra spicy, armor lock units. The miners are known to take whatever they can find into battle. The Brute Major is the first leader rank that we're going to cover today. As a rank typically filled by more battle-hardened brutes, the Major is usually seen leading either a pack of miners or a lance of grunts, jackals, and other apes into battle. Their combat experience makes them far more intelligent and lethal than the miners, a trait that is only enhanced by their vastly superior armor, which, again, varied strongly throughout the eras of the Covenant. During the Fall of Reach, the Major and the Captain, which is a rank we're going to come to in a minute, were yet to be distinguished from one another within the Covenant military, so the armor they wear is one and the same. The Captain and the Major were the same rank. They come outfitted with a far more ornate and up-armored version of the miner armor, now featuring more armor plating, of which is an almost ceremonial gold with fine, no doubt deeply religious, details painted on in red. Their new gauntlets combined with their full-face helmets make for an incredibly intimidating aesthetic. Yet again, mages under the command of Tartarus return to a far more simplistic armor setup, with 2 large metal shoulder plates, a metal cap, and a bandolier, and with the brute himself sporting thick body hair once again. And just like the miner, mages post-schism received vast armor improvements in the form of power armor. However, this time, their blue full body sets of armor feature a full built-in energy shielding system. However, this shielding system is relatively weak, and once the power armor breaks, so does the shielding. As for the weaponry and equipment used by mages, their loadouts are almost identical to that of the miner, besides the addition of the brute shot, and during the Fall of Reach only, the gravity hammer. Why such a low-ranking brute was given the ability to use a hammer is unknown. The Brute Ultra is a rarely encountered rank, but as the highest ranking of the basic infantry brutes, they make for a far more formidable foe. Only ever sighted during the Covenant's invasion of Earth, and also sparingly during the Spirit of Fire's tour of the Foreigner Shield world, Etran Harborage, they typically lead either packs of other miners or lancers of grunts, jackals, and various other low-ranking brutes into battle. Their armor is an ever so slightly modified version of the major power armor, now coloured a light violet as opposed to blue, which is almost impossible to distinguish, and with significantly stronger shields. They tend to favour heavier weaponry such as the carbine, beam rifle, and brute shot, but are known to lead lancers into battle with spikers and even maulers on occasion. Ultras also favour a wide variety of equipment, specifically defensive equipment, and appear to be the lowest ranking brutes able to pilot vehicles. The Brute Captain is the lowest ranking of the officers. To achieve such a rank, they have to be veterans of the battlefield, having displayed efficient savagery in a number of conflicts. Over the years, the Captain rank went through a number of changes, both in their role within the Covenant military and also in their aesthetic. As I mentioned earlier, as late as the Covenant's invasion of Reach, the Captain rank didn't actually exist. Captains were just classed as mages. The first sighting of a Brute Captain was when Tartarus became Chieftain of the Brutes, so whether the creation of the Captain rank, separate from the Major rank, was Tartarus's idea or not remains to be seen. Either way, following the Great Schism, they became a vital cog in the Covenant war machine as deadly frontline leaders. When it comes to their aesthetic choices, like I said, they've evolved so much over the years. During the Fall of Reach, they sported gold ceremonial armor plating, which Tartarus later stripped away in favour of thick body hair and simple grey armor plates on the arms, the head, and now a pauldron on the shoulder too, along with the staple bandolier and a now red holographic flag bearing an unidentified logo which appears to be something of a slash mark to clearly denote their rank on the battlefield, intended to inspire leadership in their allies and fear in their foes. Following the Great Schism, their armor upgrade came in the form of a violet full-body power armor, complete with shields and a helmet reminiscent of the gold helmet worn on Reach. The armor itself covers almost the entire body, leaving only the joints exposed to not prohibit maneuverability. Their beefy forearm gauntlets, massive left shoulder pauldron, and large ornate helmet make for an incredibly imposing silhouette. And then, in addition to this, there was also a burgundy variant of this power armor that was only ever encountered once during the Covenant's invasion of Earth, donned by a Brute Captain named Lepidus, who beheaded the infamous Colonel, James Ackerson. However, this power armor functions identically to the violet set. Following the dissolution of the Covenant, however, the Captain rank may have lived on in the Banished. The forces that occupy Zengheilios in 2560 have this brute among their ranks, which features a strikingly similar headdress and forearm plating to the Captain. However, given the similarities between the Captain, the regular Captain, and the two higher ranking officers that we are about to cover, the Captain Major and the Captain Ultra, this brute could be inspired by any one of those ranks, so we can't say for sure that it's just a regular Captain. However, the similarities are definitely striking. As for the weaponry used by the Captains, they tend to favour heavier weapons that pack more of a punch. Their go-to is the brute shot, but on occasion they've been known to use the human shotgun, likely favouring it due to its aggressive and rather violent nature. But they can also use plasma rifles, spikers, and carbines as well. Their equipment choices are far more varied as well. They can carry the usual defensive equipment, on top of also utility equipment such as the radar jammer and the flare, and even offensive equipment such as the power drain. The middle rank among the officers is the Captain Major, a rank that is achieved once a captain has displayed their ability to lead and inspire other holy warriors on the battlefield. Although it is worth noting that this is typically done not by inspiration or leadership abilities, but rather by violent physical threats made to those who serve under them. How very brutish. Their role within the Covenant military is pretty much the same as the regular captain, besides their new ability to command troops stationed on board scarabs, and also their operational history is seemingly identical as well. It is possible that the distinction between the Captain Major, and the soon-to-be-covered Captain Ultra was only made following the Great Schism. The biggest difference in the Captain Majors is their armour, a bright, shiny gold version of the Captain Power Armour, now fit with much stronger shields. This armour makes them stand out much more on the battlefield, which may seem like a disadvantage, but I have a feeling it's the opposite, done almost as if to encourage their foes to try and more than likely fail to fight them. Their choice of weaponry and equipment is also relatively similar to that of the regular captains, the only slight differences being that the Captain Majors favour the brute shot even more than their predecessors, and that, at least post-war, they have been cited wielding gravity hammers. And the final, highest ranking of all the brute officers is the Captain Ultra. These warriors are even stronger and more decorated than their predecessors, having displayed exceptional battlefield proficiency, in addition to undergoing training to increase their strength and agility to achieve this prestigious rank. Their armour is a cyan recolouring of the regular Captain Power armour, now fit with even stronger shields than the Major, allowing them to command lancers into battle with ease. Unlike the Captain Major, these Captain Ultras favour a wider variety of weaponry, from brute shots to fuel rods, carbines, plasma rifles, and even spikers. Their lethality comes not from their weaponry, but from their training and experience. Their equipment, however, is much the same as the Captain Majors. However, before we move on to a rather peculiar group of ranks, a word from today's sponsor, Audible. With Halo Infinite's supposed prequel, Shadows of Reach, on the horizon, there's no better time than the present to try Audible. Just go to audible.com/hiddenxperia, or text hiddenxperia to 500 to start your 30-day free trial. You even get one free audiobook and infinite free Audible original monthly downloads thrown in as well. A deal so good that not even the dumbest of the brutes could pass it up. With Audible, you can jump into the entire library of Halo audiobooks, like a chieftain jumping into a group of poor defenseless marines, just with significantly less cleanup afterwards. Listen on the go, while working out, while gaming, or whilst you're challenging your pack leader to a 1v1 fight to the death to try and take his rank.
Fight me! I'm a hero!
Oh, whoops, that's a spoiler for later on in the video. With Audible's vast library of both Halo audiobooks and just audiobooks in general, you'll be accumulating so much knowledge that you'll ascend up the ranks of any species hierarchs faster than Johnson can call Tartarus Mr. Mohawk.
Say what?
So once again, go to audible.com/hiddenxperia or text hiddenxperia to 500 to start your 30-day free Audible trial today, and also get a free audiobook and unlimited free Audible original monthly downloads as well. Thank you once again to Audible for sponsoring today's video and for showering us all with Halo audiobook knowledge, and let's get back to the ranks. Okay, so now we're going to look at the specialist class of brute ranks that don't necessarily have a fixed place in the overall ranking hierarchy, but are held by brutes with hyper-specialized skills, equipment, or leadership abilities. The first of which encapsulates the latter beautifully: the Suicide Brutes. Seemingly only employed by the Banished, which is incredibly ironic given the genesis of the Banished as a faction. These suicide brutes lead squads of suicide grunts into battle, armed with a plasma pistol and a tank of a volatile substance attached to their back. When they feel their time has come, the brutes can light this substance and create an aggressive explosion with a large radius that eviscerates all within. Now, we have no reason to believe that these brutes aren't canon despite their contradiction to the Banished nature, but their only appearance is in Blitz mode, so take that as you will. The Brute Rider is an odd rank of brute, to say the least. Exclusive to Yap Yap the Destroyer's sub-faction of the Banished that rebelled against Atriox, these brutes were captured by Yap Yap's forces, but instead of becoming POWs of this violent civil war, they were instead assigned a grunt rider and sent back into battle against their former master as something of a steed. These grunt riders are mounted on the back of the brutes, controlling them on reins and commanding them to punch things, while they throw plasma grenades off the back. If a rider performs well in battle, they can receive a plasma gauntlet upgrade, giving their fists ultra-powerful plasma-infused metal gauntlets, which, as you can imagine, dramatically increase their damage output, much to the rider's joy. Now, don't ask if these things are actually canon. I assume they are, but really, that's a topic that needs a dedicated hour-long video to even begin dissecting. The Jump Pack Brutes, colloquially named Jumpers, are a specialist rank of brute that excel in airborne and flanking maneuvers. Considered to be an honour among the brutes to serve in, the Jumpers were employed en masse during and also following the Covenant's invasion of Earth, seeing key deployments in New Mombasa, Voi, and also on the Ark, and also earlier in the war during Regret's time on Etran Harborage, and continued to even see use later on in Covenant Remnant factions and even the Banished. They wear rather simplistic, lightweight sets of power armour, complete with jump packs on the back that allow them to jump either high up or launch themselves a great distance to strafe and flank the enemy. As for their weaponry, they've been known to utilise a wide variety of arms, from lighter weapons like plasma rifles and spikers to even heavier weapons such as the carbine, the fuel rod, and the brute shot, and their equipment is typically disruptive in nature. Radar jammers, flares, trip mines, very in-fitting with their ability to easily flank and confuse the enemy. Jumpers in the Banished wear hard metal crimson harnesses and arm themselves exclusively with gravity hammers, which they chain together with their jump packs for devastating ground slams. And within Yap Yap's Banished subfaction exist the Unstable Jumpers, identical in almost every way to the regular Banished Jumpers besides their ability to violently explode upon death, almost like an act of martyrdom. I think it should be quite clear now that Yap Yap doesn't exactly respect the brutes. The Brute Stalkers are some of the deadliest brutes to ever serve under the Covenant. Employed as spies and assassins, they disregard the usual brutish aggression for a stealthier approach to combat, an approach that strikes fear into the hearts of any who encounter them. Throughout the war, they served in various different roles. Some packs of Stalkers were bodyguards for war chieftains, others were sent on assassination and espionage missions. One sect of elite Stalkers known as the Bloodstars even joined forces with the Silent Shadow early on in the war to hunt down and assassinate Blue Team. They were unsuccessful and the Bloodstars have not been heard of since, but man, I really hope the Bloodstars joined the Banished with the Silent Shadow and continue to exist under that umbrella because, dude, the brute equivalent of the Silent Shadow, there's so much potential there. The gear used by the Stalkers is unlike that of any other brute unit. They wear a unique black, kind of dark grey light power armour, allowing them to blend into the shadows, and their helmet is a rather ornate design, complete with an intimidating red Cyclops-like eye. Integrated within this unique power armour is circuitry that allows for infinite cloaking, perfect for their role as assassins and disruptors. Their weaponry has an emphasis on high instant damage output, allowing for quick executions. Some are outfitted with plasma rifles, but primarily they wield maulers and are the only Covenant unit to wield the firebombs, a deadly combination that allows for the instant execution of an enemy target in the most violent of fashions. They also use radar jammers, which they use in conjunction with their camouflage to confuse and disorientate the enemy, allowing them to get the jump on them and quickly assassinate them. The most elite of all of the Stalkers who served in the Bloodstars used roughly the same gear, with the only real difference being their armour, which is now coloured a dark crimson, in line with the Silent Shadow combat armour. The Bloodfuel Brutes are a highly specialised rank of brute, only ever encountered once under the command of Atriox's lieutenant, Decimus. They wield strange rifles which appear to be extremely modified focus rifles, I think, although this can't be said for certain. These weird chrome and green rifles are seemingly powered by the tanks on their back and use a bizarre technology that no one can quite understand to siphon the life out of any biological target their rounds hit. How this works is beyond me. The brutes themselves also wear just kinda typical Banished brute armor sets, and they command grunts with identical weaponry into battle. How this works, I do not know. Brute Grenadiers are madmen and savages employed by the Banished Lieutenant Voridus, who are deemed too unstable and too crude to advance through the Banished hierarchy naturally. With no other way to seek glory, they turn to Voridus, who offers a place in the vanguard of his pack for any brute willing to test his latest inventions. And thus, these glory-hunting brutes became Grenadiers, heavy warriors equipped with Voridus's experimental chemically enhanced armor and infusion-powered grenade gauntlets. But at a cost. The infusion gel that powers the armor and weaponry slowly rots the insides of those who wear it. Even more of a reason for them to achieve glory by dying in battle. Much rather that than the alternative. However, there are a select few Grenadiers who somehow manage to survive long enough to be considered veterans of their rank, and as such are promoted to Scarred Grenadiers, and given upgraded armour and grenade gauntlets. Their grenades now leave pools of deadly infusion gel in their wake, which melts the flesh of any poor soul unlucky enough to come into contact with it, and their new armour allows them to, instead of have their flesh melted, gain boosts to their speed, damage, and armour by coming into contact with the gel. With the advancements that Voridus has made in infusion tech while stranded on the Ark, the Banished may have some of the deadliest and most violent weapons in the galaxy in their possession. The Brute Bodyguard is the first of the guard ranks, and those who held this rank had very important roles. Not only were they tasked with guarding their pack's chieftain and enforcing tribal and military law throughout their pack, they were also, on occasion, required to guard the life of a high-ranking political figure within the Covenant. During the Great Schism, some bodyguards were even hired as the personal protectors of the Prophet of Truth to ensure no heretic could place his blade in the High Prophet's back. The number one role of the bodyguard is to protect their VIP. To do so, they command groups of lower-ranking troops into battle before them, and are known to even stand in a chieftain's line of fire to shield him from bullets if necessary. Their unwavering devotion to their orders made them some of the most terrifying brutes in the entire Covenant. Their armour is almost indistinguishable from that of the regular captain, the exact same power armour with the exact same traits, just a slightly lighter hue of blue. They tend to favour the plasma rifle and carbine and are almost always carrying defensive equipment such as the bubble shield or regenerator, or disabling equipment such as the power drain, all with protecting their chieftain or VIP in mind. The Brute Honour Guard was one of the most honourable, yet short-lived ranks in the Covenant. Following the changing of the Guard, the event which many consider to be the final straw for the elites before the Great Schism began, the Brutes replaced the elites as royal guards of the Prophets. Stationed in the upper districts of High Charity, as well as escorting the prophets as they left the city to board the key ship, the Honor Guard's #1 objective was to protect the Hierarchs, whatever the cost. The ceremonial armor they wore was similar to that of the elite Honor Guards, except now, instead of wearing a full combat harness, they wore individual armor plates scattered across the body with the same orange/yellow ornate design, and a very similar yet slightly larger headdress, now with the addition of a captain holographic flag on their back. This armor makes them stand out on the battlefield. It clearly denotes their extremely high and honorable rank, and strikes fear into the heart of any would-be foe. When standing guard, the Honor Guards are equipped with an ornate energy staff, which they can use for self-defense, but should any threat present itself, they're quick to throw this aside and either pull out a plasma rifle, carbine, or brute shot, or simply berserk and beat the life out of their threat with their fists. However, when the Brutes underwent an across-the-board armor upgrade and also rank shuffle in between Halo 2 and Halo 3, the Honor Guard was sadly replaced by the Bodyguard. What became of their beautiful ceremonial armor is unknown. Moving over to the highly coveted Chieftain ranks, we're starting off with the Covenant Chieftains, beginning with the regular Brute Chieftain. As the third highest ranking of all of the Brutes, Chieftains command all lower ranking members of their pack along with other lower ranking warriors on the battlefield. They take their leadership roles very, very seriously and are known to even conduct spiritual ceremonies and bless food prior to battle to inspire their packs and renew their faith in the great journey, the thing they're all fighting for. Achieving the rank of Chieftain isn't always done through conventional means, however. Many chieftains achieved their rank by challenging their previous chieftain to a fight to the death, which is a long-standing tradition in Brute culture, and winning. It's only fitting that one of the highest-ranking members of such a violent species had to go through such a violent procedure to achieve it, and it makes the chieftains even more imposing. Indicative of their rank, the chieftains wear highly unique power armor. During their invasion of Reach, they wore a very light red-coloured set of armour, complete with shields and anti-stick technology, with highly detailed plating on their legs, their thighs, their forearms, and their biceps, and a helmet featuring a metal face guard with sharpened edges, an ornate headdress, and finished with an intimidating spike, the design of which was actually inspired by the Dageorth, a predator native to their homeworld of Doizak. Then, in the final months of the war, their armour changed to a much darker colour palette of black and crimson. Their armour covered much more of their body and was made thicker, and their left forearm now holds a large metal plate, able to be used in crushing melee blows. Their shoulders now have blades attached to them, and the new detailing bears some similarities to that of the Honor Guard armour, although if there's any connection there or not is yet to be known. Both eras of Chieftain are known to carry various weapons, from fuel rods to plasma turrets, but all favour the gravity hammer over everything else. Post-Reach Chieftains are also known to use various offensive and also defensive equipment, but again favouring the invincibility unit, allowing them to charge foes with their gravity hammer with no fear of being taken down in the process. Very little is as frightening as a chieftain glowing white with invincibility charging you down with a gravity hammer. One of the few roles that outrank the chieftain is the War Chieftain, a higher rank of Brute Chieftain that was only ever encountered in the final years of the war. The War Chieftains typically command larger packs than the chieftains, including commanding entire Scarab battalions, a privilege regular chieftains do not hold. Their equipment differs quite strongly to that of the chieftain. They're now adorned with a bronze set of power armor, even stronger than the chieftains, and featuring a much more aggressive headdress, now V-shaped and layered with spikes, creating a significantly larger and even more intimidating silhouette. Although some War Chieftains encountered specifically in New Mombasa were known to use gravity hammers, most War Chieftains typically favour longer range weaponry such as the fuel rod or the plasma cannon, allowing them to put down heavy fire but from a much safer range, always ensuring there were other warriors standing between them and the enemy. Okay, so now let's look at the Chieftain ranks within the Banished, starting off with the Warlord. The Warlords are ex-chieftains promoted by Decimus himself for their raw strength, their savage lust for battle, and their total lack of mercy for their foes. Their purpose? To act as Decimus's personal enforcers, to bring uncooperative packs within the Banished to heal, and to direct critical Banished operations. The Warlords answer only to Decimus and Atriox, and their ruthless personas cause lower-ranking brutes to fear them, and Letvillier's troops to hate them. Their armour is coloured the staple Banished crimson, and is made of an ultra-thick heavy metal plating. Their massive helmets not only large in their silhouette, but are also near impervious to small to medium arms fire, meaning they're not only savage and ruthless, but also near impossible to bring down as well. Their dense armour plating is only complemented by their weapon of choice, the Gravity Hammer, which makes them the most violent and ruthless warriors in close quarters combat. Arguably the highest ranking of all the Banished warriors, Atriox's Chosen are brute warriors personally promoted by Atriox to act as his personal enforcers. The Chosen are the most cunning and loyal brutes in the entire faction, and their unquestioning devotion to Atriox, their chainbreaker, makes them a force to be reckoned with in the field. Answerable only to Atriox, the Chosen are feared by all beneath them, and chieftains within the Banished who thought it wise to challenge Atriox's leadership were quickly taken care of by his inner circle of Chosen. They are adorned yet again with ultra-thick heavy metal plating across their entire bodies, which is made even stronger by their built-in energy shielding system, and they carry their own personal brute shots into battle to enforce Atriox's will with maximum destruction. The penultimate rank class of today are the Naval Commander ranks, beginning with the Shipmaster. Now, although brute shipmasters were a rare sight during the years of the Covenant, as brutes were sparingly trusted to command entire ships, some did exist. Based on the very few known brute shipmasters, it seems they didn't have a specific set of armour for the rank. Maccabeus wore the War Chieftain armour, Lepidus wore the rarer burgundy-coloured Captain armour, and Parabum wore his own custom Chieftain armour. Perhaps that burgundy Captain armour that is very rarely sighted is only unique to shipmasters. Who knows? What we do know, however, is that they command their ships and all stationed on board from command centres, and were typically guarded by unique bodyguards or sometimes even entire lancers of special infantry to protect them should boarding action take place. Now, the only known brute naval commander rank that is higher than Shipmaster is the Fleetmaster. As the name suggests, the Fleetmaster commands an entire fleet of ships within the Covenant military. Towards the end of the war, as the Prophet of Truth's plans to usurp the elites from their positions of power reached a crescendo, he promoted a number of brutes to the rank of Fleetmaster, although we don't have the names of any who received a promotion, nor do we know what they look like, so this rank remains pretty shrouded in mystery for now. And finally, we have the highest ranking positions that a brute can achieve. The first of these isn't technically a rank, at least yet, but I thought that I'd briefly mention it anyway. The Leader of the Banished. Now, of course, as of now, this position has only ever been held by Atriox, but should the Banished survive the events of Halo Infinite, that role will have to be passed down to another at some point in the future. Atriox can't live forever. Although it may not be an official rank just yet, when a successor to Atriox is crowned as the leader of the Banished, it's sure to become something of an official rank. And then, to round it all off, we have the ultimate brute rank, the Chieftain of the Brutes. Only ever held by two individuals, Maccabeus and his nephew, Tartarus, the Chieftain of the Brutes is as prestigious of a rank as it sounds. The one who holds this rank becomes the prime political and military leader of all of the brutes in the Covenant or whatever faction they're a part of, and is responsible for representing their interests to their faction's leader. Following the Great Schism, this role became even more powerful, morphing into commander of the entire Covenant military, replacing the elite who once had that responsibility. The earliest known chieftain of the Brutes was Maccabeus, who was challenged and defeated by his nephew Tartarus on Harvest in a battle for the title. Although at the time the responsibilities of this title were limited to just the Brutes in his clan as opposed to all of the Brutes within the Covenant. However, early on, the hierarchs noticed Tartarus' savagery and knew that he would be a vital ally once their plans to usurp the elites were set into motion. And so, in the years that followed, he rapidly rose up the ranks of the Covenant, gaining more power as Chieftain of the Brutes. However, little did he know that he would in fact be the final Brute to hold that rank within the Covenant. He gained total power of its military on November 2nd, 2552, but was slain by the Arbiter and Johnson a day later. The role was not filled following his death, but some believe they were worthy of it. Sethagus, a chieftain that travelled to the Ark with what remained of the Covenant, believed that if he could slay the Master Chief, he could become the new chieftain of the Brutes, but we all know how that one went. It's unknown whether post-war Brute factions retained this rank or if it died with the Covenant. My assumption is that, considering it's a pretty generic role, it did continue to exist. I see no reason why it wouldn't, but we can't say that for sure. And so, those are all of the known Brute ranks and also all of the armor sets that they wear. I hope you guys enjoyed. This video was a monumental effort, as I'm sure you can imagine, so I want to give a massive shout out to Wisefish for helping with the editing. Please go and sub to this man if you haven't already, I'm begging you. But that's all for today. I want to give a massive thank you to everybody who continues to support me over on Patreon. I really am thankful for all of you guys who support me over there. And thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next one.